COVID-19, if anything, has accelerated this ongoing industrial revolution.
As we were flying into Davos this week, the Oxfam report made a lot of headlines. It pointed out that 62 of the wealthiest people in the world, and I'm sure they're all good people, have as much wealth as the poorest 3.6 billion people in the world combined.
I'm very honored and pleased to introduce the Honorable Joe Biden, the Vice President of the United States. I'm so pleased to see you back here in Davos, because I remember before you assumed your position as Vice President of the United States, you came here as a senator, you came here as the chairman of the Foreign Relations Committee of the Senate. And I have to say, in my memory, you were one of the most engaged and hardest working participants here at the annual meeting. I watched you in the morning up to midnight sometimes, one engagement after the other one. Of course, we welcome you now as the Vice President of the United States, as someone who has shown leadership, as someone who has had a privileged position to observe and to shape our global destiny.
And Dr. Schwab, when we had dinner the other night, you and your wife, I asked you whether you ever anticipated 22 years ago, when you started this group, yours though, you've written extensively on the topic that you've asked me to speak to, mastering the fourth industrial revolution. This fora defines that as change fueled by a digital revolution. But there are two questions, it seems to me, that we have to address forthrightly at the outset. First, will this revolution actually transform the global economy? And secondly, if it does, will it be for the better or for worse for humanity as a whole? Some of you argue that they won't lead to greater productivity or better jobs or wages for workers. For developed countries, the argument goes, a sluggish economic growth will be the new normal, and so get used to it. But these changes come with real peril, and they require us to be proactive at the front end of this. For how will the warehouse worker who used to ship your order, or the salesman who used to take it, now make a living when he or she is no longer needed in that venture? Does greater work flexibility mean fewer worker protections? What are the consequences, practical and moral, of scientific advances that allow us to manipulate the building blocks of life itself, to cure defects and diseases in utero? And will that medical science and capability be available to all people, because the cost is consequential? Will we end up creating more of a two-tiered society than exists today? So I say to all of you tonight that the digital revolution has the potential to exacerbate this breakdown and further hollow out the middle class, not just in America, but around the world. Automation might mean higher paying jobs for the manager of the trucking company with driverless trucks, but tens of thousands of truckers will be without a job. Where are the new enterprises? And I'm here to flatly state that I hope what you all believe, that it's our responsibility, like those who've gone before us, like what's been done in every previous revolution, to bend these changes to the benefit of society. To make sure the digital revolution creates far more winners than losers. And that's not self-evident at this moment, at least in my view. That's what we've done in previous eras of technological change. But it's my instinct it may be harder in this fourth revolution. Put simply, if we get this wrong, we don't protect the opportunity to join and advance, we don't protect the notion of possibilities, we'll see more people motivated to do harm with ever greater potential to do it.
We know that there's quite some impact on different industries. We know that certainly the health industry, the digital industry will go out of this crisis strengthened. But we know that many industries which rely particularly on physical interaction will have difficulties to survive.
To what extent would a reset be brought about by a change in the White House, the election of Joe Biden, for instance?
I don't know. We shouldn't speculate about the outcome of the election. We will see beginning of November, and then we can, in any case, we can, and the World Economic Forum is very open and as an open platform to integrate everybody who is willing to address those issues in a spirit which means to exercise here true global citizenship.
With the departure of Donald Trump, as we were just talking about, do you see this now injecting new momentum into a multilateral system, a global multilateral system? And would we return to the traditional multilateralism, do you think? Or is the world on a new path?
I think also here we need a reset. We cannot go back to the system of multilateralism which we have established after World War II. What we need is a reform of the international system. Multilateralism will get a boost by the election of President Biden.
And the first question is, Dr. Schwab, you develop a terminology called the Fourth Industrial Revolution, which became a global norm for various industrial changes. And you even chose this term as the main theme for 2016 World Economic Forum. So now, under current pandemic situation, what impact did COVID-19 have on the Fourth Industrial Revolution, and how should countries or companies should respond to it?
That's an excellent question. As a reminder, my notion and my book of the Fourth Industrial Revolution is that the innovations we are seeing today in terms of artificial intelligence, the Internet of Things, cloud computing, advanced robotics, and many others, together constitute a new phase in human development, on par or even exceeding previous industrial revolutions in scale and impact. COVID-19, if anything, has accelerated this ongoing industrial revolution. If COVID had happened even 10 years ago, we could not have imagined moving entire companies, schools, and government offices so fast online. Today, that is a reality. The Fourth Industrial Revolution has become a reality.
Hi, everyone. I'm Francine Lacqua from Bloomberg, and we have the next 45 minutes to talk about that pandemic and, of course, what comes next. Now, I'm delighted to be joined by Anthony Fauci, Chief Medical Advisor to the President of the United States, Stéphane Bancel, Chief Executive Officer of Moderna, Annelise Wilder-Smith, Professor of Emerging Infectious Diseases, London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, and Richard Hatchett, Chief Executive Officer, Coalition for Epidemic Preparedness and Innovations, CEPI. Now, Dr. Fauci, this is basically a person writing in saying, what is the best case scenario as per the data prediction to achieve herd immunity, combining the vaccine administration and COVID infections? How difficult is it to actually calibrate something like that?
We're dealing with a very complicated situation here that makes our classic definition of herd immunity very elusive.
But, you know, there have been reports that actually if you boost too much, then it's counterproductive to the immune system. Richard, where are we on that?
Maybe I'm not aware of any data that strongly suggests that the administration of the third dose or fourth dose in any way weakens the immune response. What we're seeing is a very robust response with the administration of the booster doses. Tony or Stéphane or Annelise, if you have anything to add to that.
You're absolutely correct, Richard. There really is no evidence that if you boost, I mean, obviously, if you just overwhelm the immune system by just giving a person an antigen all the time, you get a hyperactivity of immunity. But giving boosters at different times, there's no evidence that that's going to hinder it. One of the things that we've got to be careful of, and I really want to underscore what Richard said, we really don't want to get into the whack-a-mole approach towards every new variant where it comes up and you all of a sudden have to make a new booster against a particular variant it gets up, because you'll be chasing it forever. So that's the reason why one of the things we are really all pushing for is what Richard just mentioned, of finding out what the mechanisms are that induces a response to a commonality among all of the different real and potential variants that we're seeing and that can occur. And that's something that I think is a very, very important scientific goal, to be able to do that. Once we get there, whether or not you have to intermittently boost someone with that, you use the word universal. I think before we talk about a universal coronavirus, we want to get a universal SARS-CoV-2 virus. Let's take it one step at a time. Otherwise, I think we're really going to be jumping ahead of ourselves. But we really need to also point out to people that when you have a virus that has such a high degree of transmissibility, a very, very good vaccine may not necessarily prevent initial infection and may allow it to be very mild. But what you really want it to do is to prevent you from getting significant systemic disease. That would be a very, very successful pan-SARS-CoV-2 vaccine.